CNBC TV 18, Nutrify Today present Mission 100 billion US, the Nutraceuticals India.
Hello and welcome to CNBC TV 18 and Nutrify Today present Mission 100 billion, the Nutraceuticals India. Now this is a special presentation where we will look at the trends defining India's rise in the global nutraceuticals market and the essential elements that will power this market's growth journey to the $100 billion target by 2030. I'm your host Gautam Srinivasan, and joining me in this conversation are leaders in this nutraceutical space from India and around the world pitching in with their perspectives. Our lineup features Sanjay Mariwala, Executive Chairman and Managing Director, Omni Active Health Technologies India and USA, Dr. Anand Swaroop, President of CFAM Inc. USA, and Pankaj Negi, who's the President of the Indian Subcontinent Business at Fuji Chemical Group, Japan, and of course, Carl Gibson, CEO at Complementary Medicines Australia. Gentlemen, great to have you on board and look forward to a wide-ranging conversation. Lots of potential, lots to explore. But as always, let's take a step back. You know, the Nutraceuticals Task Force, Sanjay, that's been set up, and it starts with propelling India in terms of research, manufacture and market access, and position the country in terms of a trajectory of a $100 billion market. But I want to understand what's kept this market on hold till now.
I would say, as anything new, you need to learn and discover new things in an industry, and you need to adapt to those. And I think that's what we are trying to do, is adapt to some of the changes that are taking place. And the government needs to learn what needs to be done by them, and the industry needs to learn what needs to be done by them. So if you look at maybe 3 or 4 elements, we don't have an industry status within this country. We are diffused industry, spread over between spices and herbals and Ayush and many other sectors. So you really don't have a consolidated industry base. We think that one of the areas which qualifies very nicely for this industry is the PLI scheme, which the government of India has nicely come up with. I think a good PLI scheme designed for the industry can aid it grow much quicker and faster. For instance, we don't have HSN codes for this industry. Okay, so we really cannot track and monitor our progress. Where are we making progress? The government doesn't know where we are making progress, so we don't have a common language to speak with the government. Okay, lack of incubation hubs. Perhaps whatever effort takes place in an industry which is new is in entrepreneurial spirit that brings it out, and companies like us that make new things happen. But the government has to also facilitate certain roles for the incubation to take place. And one key issue is the contradictions sometimes that we come up with within a democracy like ours, which is a challenging Biodiversity Act, which affects the availability of raw materials, for instance, in a case like ours. These are a few of the big factors that actually are coming in the way today, if you look at why we are slow at this moment.
But as you said, where the market appears diffuse, as it comes together and there is more collaboration, then India can actually move.
I think this is where we can start looking at if the players understand the needs of the market, spend a little more time investing in research and study and understanding the markets, and look at what needs to be done to iron out some of these creases, and I think that's when things will start flowing in a far better.
All right. All right. From taking a step back, let's understand what's the situation on the ground currently. Dr. Swaroop, what are the opportunities for investment in nutraceuticals in India? I believe we're one of the top suppliers for medicinal plants and herbs in the world, but there's still a lot of ground to cover. So in terms of investment opportunities, where do things stand here?
Just tremendous opportunity which I see to invest in Indian market as well as Asian Pacific market along with India, because the things are very much common. If you look at India, the average age is under 30 years, a young nation, and any young nation to path of being prosperous and successful, you have to keep them healthy, mentally as well as physically. That actually presents you with a tremendous opportunity. You have to find a definition of nutrition for this population. You have to make sure that their needs are met by homegrown nutrition, which is basically tradition-based. People are accepting them, and it's going to appeal to masses. And that's where I see a tremendous opportunity for companies from outside of India to invest in this market and actually learn from this market to take the innovation back home and actually enrich their own population from the self-care revolution.
So India could actually become a sort of a test bed for all the global nutraceuticals industry to actually learn and apply those lessons and grow across the world.
I would not say it's a test bed. I mean, it's more like this is a tremendous population. You are looking at the size which is bigger than any other country on the face of earth. And if you take this population, if you take this number of people and meet their nutrition needs, that's a huge learning, which you can take it back home and then apply them.
All right, let's extend that conversation to you, Pankaj. You know, what will make the global nutraceuticals industry take note of India? What do you think are going to be the key factors?
Gautam, we were called pharmacy of the world recently. And I think India has a potential to become nutraceutical capital of the world. And I'm saying it, with a lot of, trends I can see in the market. For any industry to take a note of, what is progressive, few things are important. One is the market size, opportunity, sustainability of the business, at the same time, the consumer behavior in that market. Look at the recent trends from 2020 to 2021. The kind of innovation happened in startup in India. In healthcare sector, only there were more than 500 startups, and they secure more than $3 billion funding. It shows, the global confidence on the Indian startup and innovation. We Fuji are in this market for more than a decade. And the recent changes, what we have seen in Indian nutraceutical market, it forces us to take this market very seriously. We have already invested in India, especially in the platform technology. We are creating science locally. So I think when there's a market size and innovation, if you combine both of these, it's very difficult for the world not to take India very seriously.
So market size and innovation are the key drivers, and the headline there, as you mentioned, that India could one day be the nutraceuticals capital of the world. Carl, coming to you, how does Australia see the India opportunity for the Australian nutra industry investment?
Australia and India are both well placed to capitalise on the benefits of the growth of demand in the nutraceuticals industry in the Asia Pacific region. 1 in 9 people globally actually live in the Asia Pacific region, and the vitamins and dietary supplement market is estimated to be around $200 billion. We know that by strengthening our cooperative partnerships and working together, we could be a true powerhouse to meet that demand. Both India and Australia are very well positioned with our world-class research and innovation in our sector. And our highly skilled manufacturing, both in India and Australia, is the envy of the world. And consumers want access to high-quality, efficacious nutraceuticals to help them with their health and wellness.
I'll ask this question to Sanjay. 2021 was such an interesting period. The momentum just suddenly shifted up many gears. What do you think brought about that momentum change where we saw, say, 15% growth in demand, 12% growth in export? Is it just the beginning of a great growth story panning out?
I think it can be, and I believe we need to build on it. What made this work, of course, is the realization that the mantra that we've been practicing for so many years, which is prevention is better than cure. Okay, you've got to prevent so that you don't fall ill, rather than get ill and then cure. Okay, it's also more expensive to cure than to prevent, and that's one of the lessons that was learned very wisely through the pandemic phase, when people started adapting preventive medicines to stay well before they got affected by the pandemic in some form. Some people still did get affected, but that's a different story. We are talking about a large percentage of people who actually used these preventives to make things work for them, and I think it has demonstrated that that has worked in their favor. And today the recognition that botanicals and preventive medicines from safe botanicals can actually be the best way to keep your health in check and prevent yourself from getting ill, I think is the most effective way of managing your therapy, and not necessarily going down the hospital and the doctor route.
Absolutely. So you think that shift in mindset, that prevention is better than cure, especially as we come out of a pandemic, is kind of impacting the thought process of health?
It's clearly being seen even in the trends of the way the Indian consumers are buying and out there looking at products, asking the right questions and trying to figure out what they want to invest in. At the same time, if you look at the trends across the world, everywhere the volumes of the preventive care solutions are rising significantly.
Another important theme which we earlier discussed was, the need to bring together a lot of players in this system so that there's more cohesion being driven. And India is hosting its first ever global nutraceutical C-suite summit, which is being organized by tech platform Nutrify today. So, Pankaj, I want to know from you, what got Fuji interested in Nutrify today and its C-suite summit in India?
See, I've been attending a lot of conferences and summits around the world. And if you look at, some of the summits, they are always Western, focus. This is the first time a summit is happening in India, where it's more India-centric, and it's telling the world that what India can offer to the world. At the same time, for organization like us, the innovation is our bread and butter. And to feed that innovation, to feed our innovation funnel, we need a lot of ideas. We need to connect with people. We need to see that how can we generate more innovative ideas. And networking. For that, networking is the most important part. I think Nutrify today is bringing all these points together, and it is a platform for people like us.
And you need that context, you need that local context also to bring around a lot of players, because each region has a certain sort of dynamic and you need to sync with that dynamic. Carl, Nutrify today has been connecting the global nutraceutical industry. Now, as the CEO of Australia's most powerful nutraceutical body, do you think Nutrify today is kind of bridging the gap between global nutraceutical industries?
The signing of the India and Australia Economic and Trade Agreement in April this year, it was an important first step in our trading partnership between our two countries. Now we have to turn those words into actions. Australia wants to play its role in supporting and expanding exchange and cooperation with India. So it's great to see the important role that Nutrify Today platform can play in the work to reach larger audiences in Southeast Asia, especially with policymakers and government officials. As the peak body for the nutraceuticals industry in Australia, the Nutrify Today platform allows us to tap into 18,000 industry network that will in turn assist the Australian industry to harness the power network and create business opportunities in the future.
All right, on that note, we'll take a very short break, but the conversation continues on the nutraceuticals opportunity in India. Stay tuned.
CNBC TV 18 Nutrify Today present Mission 100 billion US dollars. The Nutraceuticals India. CNBC TV 18 Nutrify Today present Mission 100 billion US dollars. The Nutraceuticals India.
Welcome back to CNBC TV 18 and Nutrify Today present Mission 100 Billion, the Nutraceuticals India, where we are discussing the potential growth that India offers for the nutraceuticals market. Let me extend the conversation and bring you in, Dr. Swaroop. You've built a large nutraceutical company in the US. So I want to understand from you, how can Ayurveda be leveraged in the American Nutra market, and how can it sort of lead to real wealth creation to markets in the US and India?
So if you see at nutraceutical, the future of nutraceutical belongs to 3 S. First is safety, science, and third is sustainability. The consumer across the globe, they are talking about it, these 3 S's. They talk about if they take a herb or medicine or nutraceutical, is it safe for them? What's the science backing it up? And is it sustainable? Can you sustain it down the line? And if you look at Ayurveda, this has been practiced in Ayurveda for thousands of years. Every herb has a history of use, which is safe. There's a science behind it, why they've been used, because some research has been done on that. And sustainability, we talk about preserving the environment, preserving the trees. So sustainability, all these things are built in. So this actually brings Ayurveda to the same level of expectation we are looking from Western perspective. All the 3 S's has been met. And that's where I think if we bring these principles out and open and talk to West about that, these are inbuilt. These are known to us for thousands of years, but they've not been talked about too much because they're part of our tradition. And if you look at the wealth creation, US or the West has only seen maybe 1% of the herbs, what is being described and mentioned in Ayurveda. There are hundreds and thousands of herbs out there. West have seen hardly 20 of them. And out of 20, only 3 have made to mainstream, which is running $1 billion of sales right now. So think about that, bringing in more science, more stories, more sustainability stories of this market in Ayurveda, can really help create a big wealth in this market.
So science, safety, and sustainability, that will be the key drivers. But there's been a legacy now of the American market kind of experiencing the benefits of Indian herbs. But as you said, it's just scratching the surface, and there are more ingredients to come and more health benefits to offer for a wide variety of customers.
Absolutely. And this is more, the way we look at, and India looks at Ayurveda is more holistic approach. It's about eating well, it's about living well, and it's about eating the right herb for your prevention or any health objective you're trying to achieve. And West have learned this thing now, that a holistic approach is better than just following a single herb preventive approach. So we have much more out there to teach, we have much more out there to offer, but then it has to basically follow a pattern in which the language, the paradigm is what we understand in West. And then that's where that gap has to be basically fulfilled.
All right. Sanjay, what would you look at when you look at this $100 billion ambition, when OmniActive views this $100 billion ambition? What do you think are some of the key points that still need to be addressed, some of the gaps, and where do you think India has a very strong case to reach that target?
I think quite a bit is begun quite well, which is look at the task force, the formation of the task force and the seriousness with which we are moving forward, I think is in the right path. I think 100 billion is a big target, but it's not something that's unachievable. I believe that in a global industry which is growing at a 16-17% rate, from 490 billion, which we are today, to getting to 600 billion as a size in the next few years is not impossible. And of that $600 billion, if we are carving out a slice of 100 billion, we're not talking of a unrealistic target for a country like India. Okay. The question here is, what can India do well in differently? Okay. And the reality here is that if we concentrate on the few key elements, which is what, the supply chain and consumer understanding, marrying these two, I think is the crux of our industry and our business houses, understanding what they really need to do and how to go after it. Okay. The question here is, how do you satisfy a worldwide industry of range of products from herbals and botanicals and natural products that can meet their safety, scientific evidence need, and the sustainability need. Okay. And I think all three are available to us, as my colleague here pointed out. But I think the important thing here is that how do you pick and choose what you're going to go after, and how do you pick which products you're going to market effectively. And I think the success lies in industry developing a formula for making this work right.
All right, Pankaj, let me get you to respond to that. How do you go about tapping innovations in India for investments? How do you go about it? It could serve as a template for the viewing audience.
I think innovation need not to be from the scratch. Time has come when it is going. You need not to do only the organically. There could be the partnership. There are the opportunities where the industry people come together and share the ideas and work on the particular goal. We personally use the platform like Nutrify today, where we meet people, share the ideas. And it's like innovation on demand. You meet people, they have ideas, but something is lacking, maybe in terms of investment, maybe in terms of science. And there where I think probably the continuous feeding of idea is needed. And thanks to Nutrify today, that it is already there, and it is shaping India shaping this platform in a good way.
All right, message of optimism still coming through. Dr. Swarup, you have worked closely on the US-China traditional medicine commercialization gateway in the past, I believe. So I want to learn from you, what were the lessons that you learned from there, and what can be done to emulate something similar and bring Ayurveda to the center stage?
The great lessons to be learned. China has done some tremendous work as a disseminator of information to the West about traditional Chinese medicine. The government has sponsored a lot of research. They have made data flow very easily possible. At the same time, they also curated the local industry. They have given them voucher specimens, reference standards, test methods, and they made this whole thing available to the world out there. So any data which we are looking for traditional Chinese medicines, very easily available and accessible. I think there's a data available for Indian products also, or Ayurvedic products also, but then it need to be indexed, put in a proper database, and then made accessible to the industry. So I think Innovation, I see it's going to be more democratized. It's more like a Web 3.0 way where innovation has to spread out. But at the same time, we do need some effort from the government, from a central body, just to collect and index all the research which has been done, which is in public domain as on today, and made it available to industry. Also, help them more to understand and make sure that standards have been met within all this, the products which have been made in India. And you have to have the voucher specimen, different standards, which are made available from India itself.
Right, Carl, now the Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement, or ECTA, between Australia and India was signed recently. So how do you see Australian transaction into India panning out for the next 3 years?
The Australian-India Economic Trade Agreement partnership is a true landmark. Negotiations towards a trade agreement were actually started in 2011. It's taken over 10 years to get to this point, so it's a really big milestone. Two-way trade in goods and services has grown in value from 13 billion in 2007 to 24 billion in 2020, with 85% of all export tariffs to India being reduced to preferential access rates. Over the next few years, we truly expect tremendous growth in trade and also economic partnership and cooperation. This is good news for India and good news for Australia.
All right, on that note, it's time to wrap up our special presentation titled CNBC TV18 and Nutrify Today present Mission 100 Billion, The Nutraceuticals India. It's been an expansive conversation analyzing what India needs to do for reaching that mammoth target. And I would like to thank all the leaders for joining in this conversation and sharing with us their insights and lessons. And of course, thank you to our viewers for tuning in. This is your host, Gautam Srinivasan, signing off.
CNBC TV18 Nutrify Today present Mission 100 Billion US dollars. The Nutraceuticals India.